Welcome to Pastor's Chat. We're looking at the little book of Jude as he talks about the false teachers, the apostates that have invaded the church to lead God's sheep, God's people astray. He's given great warning about them and talking about how they will face judgment one day. So the book of Jude is basically a book of judgment. Always interesting to me that it precedes the book of Revelation, the great book of God's wrath being poured out on earth during the tribulation period. Now, we're all the way down to verse 12 and 13. So let's read these two verses. These are spots in your love feast, while they feast with you without fear, serving only themselves. They are clouds without water, carried about with the winds, late autumn trees without fruit, twice dead, pulled up by the roots, raging waves of the sea, foaming up their own shame, wandering stars for whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. So here in verses 12 and 13, Jude gives a very vivid picture, actually 6 vivid pictures of these false teachers. And as we have already seen that these false teachers are identified by their rejection of divine authority. Also, they're identified by the fact that they are committing deliberate hypocrisy. They come across as good and wonderful and kind and giving, and yet at the same time they're serving their own selves. And so Jude is exposing these people. He's trying to say, you need to notice that this is what they really are. Now, I tell you what, he's talking about false teachers. Sometimes these would be identified as pastors, leaders of in the church that have come into the church. But also, I think this is a vivid description sometimes of the politicians of our day. They're deliberate hypocrites. They say one thing and live another. And they really only have one purpose, and that is to serve themselves. And that's what you see as you look through these verses here. The false teachers, the false leaders, and selfish people, as they make like they're helping you, they really only have one purpose, and that is to benefit from you and serve themselves. And so we see this, and we see these pictures here of these false teachers, and Jude is explaining why they're so dangerous to the church. Now, the first thing he calls them filthy spots. They're spots in your love feast. They're filthy spots. And Peter called them spots and blemishes. They invaded the love feast. These are the local assemblies where people come together in encouragement and love, and they fellowship around food and good things. But they are defiling themselves and adding, as they themselves act like they're adding sanctity to the occasion, they're basically distracting from it. They're spots, they're blemishes, something that's beautiful and good and looks fantastic, but then you notice a blemish, a spot on it, and you go, goodness. And 99% of it looks fantastic, but then there's one spot, and you notice the spot. It distracts, and that's what these people do. Everything is good about the church. Everything's great. All these people are fellowshipping together. People are getting along with each other, and then there's a spot. There's a blemish, and boy, it shows up, and it distracts from the beauty of the house of God and the people of God. And the Greek word translated spots here can also mean hidden rocks. The mariner who is unaware of the hidden rock can quickly wreck his ship, and the pilot must always be alert, because the waters that look so calm and safe can also contain treacherous reefs. Spiritual leaders must constantly be on guard against these filthy spots that are blemishes in the house of God and distract from the beauty of God's church and God's people. Oh, God, help us as we look at that. And then notice also they're selfish shepherds. He says they are spots in your feast as they feast with you without fear, serving only themselves. They're feeding themselves instead of feeding the flock of God. And we're going to look at more of these pictures in the days to come. But God help us today to keep our eyes on the Good Shepherd, Jesus Christ, who always loves and cares for us. You have a wonderful, wonderful day.